Hi, this is the Scoot of the Air YouTube channel, and I'm Scoot. I welcome you to our channel. If you are new here, I hope you become a subscriber. It's free, and we give you a notice every time we post something. You can also go back and look at some of the videos that I've posted. Some of them are interesting, some of them very controversial. But I'm glad you're with us here on Scoot on the Air YouTube. Today was another day on my radio talk show in WFUL in New Orleans, where the lines were fully lit the entire show. People talking about the crime wave. And I feel like we were among the first to really define this as a crime wave and really talk about this as a crime wave that needed attention. The city council is now acting. We've got a meeting scheduled with the police chief, and then at another meeting a couple of days later, a meeting scheduled with the district attorney, Jason Williams. Here's what's interesting. The DA and the police chief pointing fingers at each other. Basically, the police chief is saying, hey, we arrest people, but we're arresting the same little son of a bitches all the time. And you keep letting these bastards out. The justice system, the DA, you're not holding them, and you're giving them judges are giving them low bails. So they get out right away. That seems to be reality. However, the district attorney, Jason Williams, is saying, no, you don't give us enough evidence. NOPD, the New Orleans Police Department, is not doing its job because you're not giving us enough evidence to convict these people. So look, there's a strong scent of political stench here. And that has to end, because the police chief and the DA need to work together. And we need to put politics aside, put egos aside, and just work for the people of New Orleans. I'm not sure that's going to happen. God, I hope it does, but I'm not so sure. New Orleans Mayor Cantrell, who has been silent on the crime wave, the carjackings, the armed robberies, the freaking shootouts, the shootings on the interstate. Yeah, people are getting popped on the interstate. Not a lot compared to all the traffic on the interstate. I want to be, honest about that, but enough to where it's scary as shit. So the mayor held a meeting with a chief judge, a deputy chief judge, the police chief, several public safety leaders. And in a statement after, she said, the spike in crime that we've experienced in this city during the pandemic is not a challenge any one agency can overcome alone. In the days and months ahead, we will continue to work with all stockholders, including the courts, the DA, Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, towards solutions that will make our city safer. Look, here's a problem with the mayor's statement. Did you pick that up? The spike in crime that we have experienced in the city during the pandemic. Bullshit. I don't think it's fair to blame the pandemic. But you blame the pandemic and all of a sudden, oh, well, it's the pandemic. It's not really our fault. That's the message. It's not really our fault. Bullshit. The pandemic's been going on for 2 years. This spike is just happening. So don't blame it on the pandemic. Blame it on the behavior, the human behavior that has become acceptable. The lack of education, not the availability of education, the lack of people going to fucking school. The lack of people who are in the mindset that it's cool to be smart or to just be educated. And I'm not talking about college. I mean, my God, at least just get through high school and you need to learn certain things. I mean, you can't drop out of school at 15. And some kids do that. Your parents don't give a shit. Parents, yeah. Parents, by definition only, not by what they do. So this is really sad. And I'll tell you one thing that I heard from listeners over the last 3 days, and today it seemed to really reach a peak, is a deep-rooted frustration and deep-rooted fear. People are scared. People are scared to stop at a stop sign, scared to stop at a stoplight. People are scared to pull up at their house because carjackings have taken place everywhere. Armed carjackings, armed thug bastards on the street, hoodies, ski masks, sometimes no, but quite often hoodies and ski masks. And they're using guns and they're terrorizing people and they're stealing their cars. I had somebody call the show today and say it's all about the money. They're all going to chop shops. Maybe some are, but a lot are found. A lot of the cars that are carjacked are found nearby, around the corner, down the street, or a day later they're found. They did not go to chop shops. In fact, I've got a story here of one man. Well, actually, there are a couple of these stories, but one carjacking victim had to pay almost $400 to get his car out because after it was stolen, it got towed. Now, look, the towing company towing the car, they need to be paid. But this should be on the city. The city should pay for this. If you get your car jacked in a city that is infested with crime, you shouldn't have to pay to get your car out. That's a damn shame. And then I had somebody call my show and tell me it cost her $300 to get her car out after it was towed. Also, let me mention that there were callers on the show today that identified themselves as African Americans. For those of you who don't know, I have a very strong African American following in New Orleans and really throughout the Gulf South. I have all my career. And it's because of who I am and the way I do the show and my dedication to equality and my ability to relate to people. As you can tell, I'm not Black. I don't pretend to be Black. But I can relate to the Black community on a lot of different levels. I had African American listeners call the show and totally agree with everything that I say. I mean, not everything, but everything that I'm saying about this. They agree that they're thug bastards on the street, that they're not in school, they're not being educated, they're not getting jobs. And then I had the Reverend Aubrey Wallace call again today. We got into another argument today because this old guy is talking about it's economics. Is it? He said something like, you've got to give these young men a job. Wait a minute. If that's what you're preaching to your community, you're disserving your community. You're hurting them. In some ways, you're killing them. You got to give them jobs? No, they have to know that it's important to go out and get jobs. There are jobs available all over this area. Countless jobs. And then he talked about minimum wage. Wages have gone up since the pandemic because it's been hard to find people. Nobody should be totally happy living on minimum wage. That shouldn't be a living wage. I mean, even if it's $15 an hour, that's not much money if you've got a family. But wait a minute, maybe you start working at minimum wage when you're really young and you don't have a family. And maybe you sort of plan your life out to where you don't have a family until you can afford to take care of a family. It doesn't mean that poor people shouldn't have children, because that's fine. But it just means that there should be some responsibility, some fiscal responsibility to having children. So a lot of callers, African-American dads and moms, calling and agreeing with this idea that, in fact, one guy called today and he said, we have to do a better job within our community. We can't depend on somebody else to fix this problem. There's a lot that everybody can do, but there are some things that have to be done from within the community. And then there was a gentleman that called the show today and criticized me because I don't know what it's like when a black man kills a black man. Because I'm white, I don't know anything about that. I told him, you're right. I don't know what it's like for a young black male to kill another young black male. But I do know what it's like when a young human kills another young human. And as long as people are making this about race, nothing is going to be done to stop it. This is not about race. It's about human behavior. And I know about humans killing humans. I see it on the news. I see the impact it has on the community. I don't see a young black male carjacking a car. I see an armed young male carjacking a car. Keep race out of this, and don't disqualify me because I'm white. Don't disqualify a white person because they're not black. That's not fair. In fact, if it weren't for white America, well, we wouldn't still have slavery, but think of all the white Americans that worked to end slavery. Think of the white Americans like me that do all they can to try to understand what life is like as an African American. So I'm not going to take that shit that just because I'm white, I'm not qualified to talk about this. I know my limitations because I'm white, but I also understand human behavior. And that's what this is about. And yet there are still going to be those like the Reverend and this caller and others who are going to try to make it about race. And they're going to try to dismiss logic. They're going to try to dismiss common sense as being bullshit because it's coming from somebody who is not black. That's the part that's bullshit.